Welcome to Buy or Buy, the Explainer, where we answer the ultimate enthusiast question. Today, we're looking at a true automotive landmark. We're talking about the 2024 to 2026 Lotus Emira. Let's just dive right in, because this isn't just another sports car. It is the definitive, absolute swan song of the internal combustion engine for Lotus. After this, they are going EV only, forever.
Okay, just think about the current automotive industry for a second. Everyone, and I mean everyone, is going electric. They're adopting dual-clutch automatics, they're adding all-wheel drive, and aiming for carbon neutrality. And in the face of all that, Lotus basically looked at the entire industry and said, you know what? Let's build a hand-built, mid-engine, rear-wheel drive sports car in Norfolk, England. Let's bolt a Toyota engine to a Mercedes gearbox, charge $100,000 for it, give you hydraulic steering, and then literally never build another internal combustion car again. It's just a gloriously rebellious piece of engineering.
So what exactly is the Emira? Well, it's the final gas-powered sports car hand-assembled at the historic Hethel plant. And this really illustrates the historical weight of this vehicle, right? Because it's simultaneously replacing three legendary cars, the Elise, the Exige, and the Evora. They basically took the spirit of that legendary trinity and merged the whole shebang into one highly refined, extruded and bonded aluminum chassis.
Now, a super interesting number to look at here is the weight, 3,097 pounds. Purists might look at that and say, wait a minute, that's the heaviest mid-engine Lotus to date. And, well, yeah, they'd be right. But look at the context of 2026. In a class where everything else is bloated with massive batteries, electric motors, and crazy complex hybrid systems, 3,097 pounds in its lightest form is still an absolute featherweight.
Let's move to the heart of the car and see how this actually builds the Emira's dual personality. You effectively have a tale of two completely different powertrains dividing the entire lineup. We're talking the Toyota 3.5-liter supercharged V6 on one hand versus the Mercedes-AMG 2-liter turbo inline-4 on the other.
The crucial point here is how these numbers actually play out on the road. So, on one side, you've got the AMG i4 pushing 360 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque. This is the M139 Turbo 4 straight from the AMG A45 S, but it's exclusively made it to an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission. No manual option at all. On the other side, the purest dream, the Toyota 2GR-FE platform. This is the exact same 3.5-liter supercharged V6 that powered the Lotus Evora 400 and the Toyota Orion TRD, throwing down 400 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. And most importantly, it's available with a 6-speed manual.
And honestly, that brings us to what makes the V6 the absolute, no-questions-asked enthusiast choice. The 6-speed manual transmission paired with hydraulic power steering. Guys, in 2026, hydraulic steering is an extreme rarity. It's pretty much just the Emira and the Aston Martin Vantage that still offer it. It gives you this incredibly analog, tactile feedback right through the wheel that electric systems just cannot match, no matter how hard they try. It is the pure analog driving experience that basically every other manufacturer is actively trying to kill off.
But we do have to talk about maintenance realities, because mid-engine packaging absolutely has its consequences. So the Toyota V6 is incredibly robust. It powered the Evora for over a decade, but the supercharger sits right on top of the engine. Doing the required fluid change at 100,000 miles involves some massive specialized labor, costing anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500. Meanwhile, the i4 uses that Mercedes-AMG wet clutch DCT. It shifts beautifully, sure, but it's known for occasional clutch pack failures right around the 30,000 to 50,000 mile mark. If that happens out of warranty, yeah, you're looking at a staggering $6,500 to $9,500 repair bill.
All right, let's pivot to the ugly truth. What are the quirks? Because early adopters of the 2024 models definitely faced some real build quality issues. We're talking door fitment inconsistencies that caused some pretty prominent wind noise at highway speeds, frustrating glitches with the Pivi Pro infotainment system, which, by the way, is an issue shared with the newer Geely-era Lotus EVs, peeling on the optional lower black pack, and a front AC condenser that is highly vulnerable to rock strikes. The good news, though, Lotus actually stepped up and largely corrected the door fitment and wind noise issues by mid-2024 at their new facility.
Now, if you jump online and look up the 2026 reliability rating on cars.com, you're going to see a terrifying 1.0 out of 5. But please, take this with a massive grain of salt. It really just reflects a tiny, tiny sample size of early complaints. Mechanically speaking, the Toyota 2GR platform is incredibly well documented. Now, it does have a known quirk of consuming about 1 quart of oil every 4,000 to 6,000 miles. But other than that, it is a Toyota engine that will basically run forever.
Honestly, a much bigger reality check for you guys out there is the service network. There are fewer than 30 US Lotus dealers nationwide. Let that sink in. If you don't live near a major metropolitan hub, getting warranty service or collision work might literally require shipping your car on a truck. And because of this tiny footprint, parts availability is notoriously slow compared to your mainstream brands.
Speaking of mainstream brands, let's bring the Emira back down to earth and look at the competition. We've got to be fair here. The Emira is not as fast as the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4, which, as you know, was a top performer on our channel, or as track-focused as a Porsche 718 GT4 RS. It's not as exotic as a McLaren Artura either, but compared to the standard 718 Cayman we've covered, it's similar money but way more visually dramatic. It makes the $50,000 to $65,000 B58-powered Toyota Supra look distinctly less exotic, and it's much more accessible than a used V10 Audi R8. It just carves out this very specific, incredibly beautiful niche.
So let's trace the pricing evolution, because, man, it has been a bumpy road. Due to inflation and some massive launch certification delays that pushed the initial 2022 global deliveries heavily into 2023 and 2024 here in the US, pricing crept up. The 2024 US launch first editions were around $105,400. Now, the 2025 E4 base sits around $89,995, while a 2026 V6 SE is going to set you back roughly $110,000.
But here is the absolutely wild part about the used market. Original 2024 launch MSRP was roughly $105,400. Today, used V6 first editions with 5,000 to 15,000 miles on the clock are trading right between $92,000 and $105,000. This car is effectively depreciation-proof. It has barely lost a dime, which is practically unheard of for a modern sports car.
So we've arrived at the ultimate question for this explainer. Knowing the early build quirks, the incredible analog feel, the proven Toyota reliability, and the fact that it's the absolute end of an era, do you buy or do you say buy?
The verdict is an absolute, emphatic buy. Whether you are looking at the new or used market, the Emira is simply one of the great driver's cars of 2026. Because it is the swan song of the internal combustion Lotus and the true spiritual successor to the Elise, Exige, and Evora trinity, these examples are perfectly positioned to not just hold their value, but honestly, eventually, appreciate.
So if you're actually heading out to get one, here is your actionable buying advice. If you're ordering new, get the V6 SE manual. That is undoubtedly the future collector's pick. If you're buying used, visually verify the door fitment on those early 2024 builds, test literally every function on the Pivi Pro infotainment, check if the supercharger fluid service was done if it's a high-mileage car, and absolutely for sure, budget for limited dealer service access.
I'm going to leave you with this final thought. The automotive landscape is changing forever. A decade from now, when everything is silent, electric, and autonomous, will you regret not buying the absolute last analog, hydraulically steered, manual mid-engine Lotus ever produced? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.